From the quietness of my audience, I can recognize that. I can tell that the subject is not resonating with anyone at all, but it is with me, because the more after reading the New Testament for most of my life, I'm stuck, because if anyone or I have no understanding of the Hebrew scriptures of Jewishness and Judaism, then my understanding of the New Testament life, after all, the first Christians were Jewish, what they say, what they do, after a while, it loses its delight, in the sense that it's the same old. How many times can you read it over and over again with your narrow focus, narrow view of things, because I have no other knowledge of the scriptures before me. I can only go so far with it. And my life at least, is stuck and stagnating. So there are many things in the New Testament that can only be understood from knowing the Tanakh. The Tanakh is the Hebrew word for the Old Testament. You can only go so far without a good knowledge of the Tanakh, of life, of Jewishness, of Judaism. So to de-Judaize the New Testament can only get me so far. So I know I'm stuck. I know I'm stagnating. So I said the answer really is in the Pentateuch, the Torah, not the law. When Jesus said, I've come to fulfill the law, what does that mean? We don't have to do the law. We can unhitch a wagon from the Old Testament. The things in the New Testament that's definitely cannot be understood until we know what is the law, what is the Torah. The Torah is the first five books of Moses, the Pentateuch in Greek. It has the law in it. It has history. So to really understand it, one has to understand what that is all about. So I've been thinking my answer really is there. So I've been trying to reach out to rabbis, and they don't care either. But going through the internet, I come across people, rabbis who are really steeped in Judaism, especially in the language. Why? Understand that in the first opening line of Genesis, what happens? Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shibayim v'at haaretz. That's biblical Hebrew. For in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So really, right at the outset, we don't realize how much has been embedded there in every single alphabet of that first line. So the thing in Hebrew is va, and it is the same word for God spoke. So when God spoke, the thing appeared. So it's like, whoa, God created the first language. God created the first alphabet, albeit it's not biblical Hebrew. It was Paleo-Hebrew. However, in the 10th century BC, they came up with biblical Hebrew, which is a descendant of Paleo-Hebrew. So whatever is embedded in Paleo-Hebrew is now embedded in biblical Hebrew. So to really understand it, one has to understand biblical Hebrew, because every single alphabet in biblical Hebrew is an action verb. It is an action root that it's just like a chemical formula. When you see H2O, at once you know, aha, that's water. 2 molecules of hydrogen with 1 molecule of oxygen. And biblical Hebrew is that way. When you look at the word, because this word has a meaning, you know. For example, the first letter is Aleph. A means strength. It means the ox, the strength. It means God, the divine. So if you find that in a word, then you know at once that's what it is. That even though today I can look at some Hebrew literature and say, oh, I recognize the alphabet. That's all I know. But whatever little I know, I begin to understand how powerful that is. And we do not recognize that power because we do not understand it. We've never been taught that. And that's the tragedy. I went to church on Sunday yesterday, and the emptiness of the pews and our people, the only people who go to church these days, well, not just here, but in Europe, are old people who are dying. Yeah, we think that when we die, we'll go to heaven. So now, as we grow older, our days are going to end and we better go back to church. And people are dying in church and it's empty. The young people have no need. It's because the church are not teaching. There's so much excitement, so much to learn, but churches are not teaching it. And it's the same old parables, the story about Jesus. Not that it's not great, but it does, that dimension of history is not there. There's much more, but we are not teaching it. And most people go to theological colleges to do New Testament. Old Testament is a hard subject. A few people have the time to learn biblical Hebrew and therefore delve into the Old Testament. But if one does, there are few people who does, and it makes a world of a difference. Understand that a lot of things in biblical Hebrew cannot be translated. It's just not translatable. I know that the Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, of the Tanakh. But much as good as a job it does, it's not translatable. So if our translation comes from the Septuagint, the Greek version, so there are lots of things that cannot be translated, and therefore we miss the real and true meaning. And even the New Testament is written in Greek, and they quote from the Greek Septuagint, the Old Testament, and there is a difference between the Hebrew rendition of the same verses as in those quoted in the New Testament. And for that reason, much as we can get out of it, there's still something missing. Because we have to understand this is a great book. I have downloaded a sample in my Kindle, but the real book is coming. Christianity's Hebraic heritage is multifaceted and rich. For years, I've reminded my students that Christianity was not invented out of whole cloth, nor did it originate de novo. Instead, it was a development from Judaism. So to understand anything of the depth of biblical Christianity and its teachings, one must understand Judaism. It is so fascinating. So I will leave you with a clip of a Hebrew alphabet.
Here. The first letter, this one, Aleph, pronounced as a clear A sound. Aleph. In Spanish and Portuguese pronunciation, these two letters, with the dot and without, are both pronounced bet, bet, bit, bit. These two letters, in Spanish and Portuguese, with the dot and without the dot, are both pronounced gimel, gimel, g, gimel. These two letters, both with and without the dot, in Spanish and Portuguese pronunciation, are both pronounced dalet, dalet, with the force d. This letter here, with a small gap, notice here between the little armature, is pronounced hey, hey, corresponding to the English letter H, hey. So Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He. And this letter, in its form as a consonant, is Vav, pronounced V, Vav. The next letter we look at is Zayin, Zayin, pronounced Z, Z, Zayin. This letter, which resembles the letter He, but it's closed up here, is Chet, Chet. which is the noise that a cat makes when it's angry. Shit. Written in our book with a double H. Det, the letter T, but pronounced slightly further back in the mouth, as you might hear it in some Indian subcontinent accents. T, tet, t. This is the letter Y, or Yod, Yod, Y. These two letters, both with the dot and without the dot, are pronounced differently. One is kaf, kaf with the dot, giving us the sound k. And the other is chaf, chaf, giving us the sound ch. Our next letter is lamed, lamed, l. Mem, mem, not to be confused with tet. Mem, m. Nun, n, not to be confused with the letter B, bet, which is longer on the top and the bottom. Samech, samech, s. Ngayin, ng, ng, as the sound in sing. Ng, ngayin. These two letters are differentiated by the dot. One is pe, p, and the other is fe, f, p, and f, pe, fe. This letter here is s, tzade, tzade. This is a K sound, but it's slightly further back in the throat. Kuf, kuf, k, kuf. The letter R in Hebrew is always pronounced, unlike in English, where we drop it off at the end of words and all over the place. Resh, resh, r, resh. We have these two letters, which in older Spanish and Portuguese pronunciation from the 1700s were both pronounced s, but nowadays we do differentiate them, and we say, with a dot on the right-hand side, shin, sh, and the dot on the left-hand side, sin, s. So sh and s. Although in the Spanish and Portuguese, if you do say s all the time, that is one authentic pronunciation, but it's a historic pronunciation and it's not used anymore. And our final two letters are both pronounced the same way nowadays, t and t, although historically they were tav and thav.